Thank you so much, Ian, and good afternoon from this side of the world. Good morning, everyone. So cheers from our headquarters here, from the greater Helsinki metropolitan area. Let me try to get the techniques working. Disclaimer: I'll skip over similar to the content that Ian already gave. A couple of words, first of all, of myself. I'm a 37-year-old guy, a father of three, live here in the Helsinki area. My professional background prior to joining Boreo in May 2020, so 2.5 years ago, comes from the private equity and investment banking world. I've been working in that space mainly in the European, in Europe, both in London, in Munich, and here in Helsinki. My background initially comes from a family heritage, more from forest-related industries by education, also in addition to doing a CFA, and have majored in forest economics. First of all, I wanted to say that we have shot out yesterday an invitation to our Capital Markets Day, first in the history of the firm. That will take place on Tuesday, 27th. So 1.5 weeks time. Any one of you who will be more interested in the company, feel free to log in and listen to us, or later on there will be a webcast available where, in addition to myself, my team, our group management team, will be presenting more in detail the company. So that will be a good opportunity to hear about the update and get to know a broader bunch of the management team and key individuals of the firm as well. I do apologize. This will be New York time, 6 a.m. So it might be tough for many of you, but if that's not possible, please check the webcast later on. I've structured the presentation, so I'll try and keep it in around about 20 minutes, so that we have sufficient time for questions you might have. I thought of briefly laying a bit on the context of the Nordic serial acquirer arena for those of you who might not be that familiar with the space. Then I'll go through the basic facts of Boreo, and then discuss the business model and strategy in more detail. So starting from the kind of broader context, I guess many of you are familiar with the US serial acquirers. Those have created tremendous amount of shareholder value in the long term, whether it be Constellation Software or different types of companies, successful companies in the States. I brought here a simple graph where I've put on the left-hand side, just for illustrative purposes, a kind of a graph showing the company size by market cap and also level of integration, high or low. You could also see that they, through sector focus, or try to classify the businesses so that they describe a bit of what type of animals our peers are. And those who the Nordic serial acquirer arena well are familiar with the fact that this has been a really successful and known business model, which many Swedish companies have followed and executed very successfully in the last 20 to 30 years. The most well-known companies you will see in the upper right corner, called for example, Lifco, Addtech, Indutrade, Lagercrantz Group, many of them which ultimately originate from the Bergman Beving company and have been spun off over the last decades. These are pretty much, so you see Boreo here on the down right corner. We're roughly a 100 million euro market cap company as of today, and we are you could call ourselves by level of integration somewhat low integrated. So we're not only operating in one specific industry, as Ian already mentioned. We are divided into three different. Our businesses are divided into three different divisions or business areas, and we operate and execute the growth story through the platforms, the 3 platforms we have in place. So this gives you a bit of the feeling that you could call ourselves a Swedish time long-term value creator, of which many of the Swedish guys have given good examples of. Interestingly, in the Finnish stock market, we are pretty much the only one who is pioneering this type of business model, and we clearly see to have a competitive advantage going forward in the short term, at least, when we look at our ability to grow through acquisitions and organically here in Finland, but also in other geographies. Then if we take a deeper dive into Boreo, here are a couple of some of the key facts, so that you can get a better understanding what type of an animal we are today. So we own, as of today, 18 companies. We've done since 2020, so during from the time when I joined, 12 acquisitions. Net sales for continued operations in 21, a bit more than 122 million. Continued operations because of the reason that we owned a successful and long-term standing business on the electronics components distribution side in Russia. And due to obvious reasons, the Ukrainian crisis, we successfully exited that company in August 22, so a bit more than a month ago. So that's why you see us talking about in the recent reports also of continued operations. Our companies, or if you look at the group as a whole, roughly 6% operating margins measured by EBIT. So today, strong financial or good, stable financial position of the company. If you look at leverage, so 2.5x measured by net debt to operational EBITDA. A market cap of 107 million and roughly 300 employees in 7 different countries. We are, as Ian already explained or mentioned in the beginning, we see ourselves as the Finnish compounder pioneer with an ultimate objective to create long-term value by owning and acquiring small entrepreneurial companies. We operate in a decentralized operating structure. So the companies operate with a high level of autonomy with support from Boreo. So our ambition is to, although we have invested heavily now in the last couple of years in building the group platform and preparing ourselves for future longer term growth, we push the decision making to the managing directors of our portfolio companies, and are rather operating and guiding the firm and managing the firm via target setting and overall by developing and coaching and supporting the key individuals in the firm. Entrepreneurship is in the core of our DNA, both in terms of the way we operate. We see ourselves as a non-bureaucratic, agile company with the ability to adapt it to market conditions. Also, entrepreneurship meaning that the key team and the larger bunch of individuals have invested significant amounts of own money and have a significant amount of skin in the game. And our ambition is, as we already do, our objective is to own companies with high profitability and strong operating margin, producing good cash conversion, which allows ultimately to create long-term shareholder value. If you look at the portfolio, I will go into much more detail into the specific businesses, but this gives you an idea of the portfolio as it looks like today. So organized into 3 business areas: electronics, technical trade, and heavy machines. These are, to a great extent, our business, as Ian said in the beginning, what they are B2B in nature. We operate mainly, our businesses are mainly value-add distributors. Electronic side, mainly the competitive advantage coming from the technical knowledge of our individuals and the solutions that we provide to our customers. On the technical trade side and on the heavy machine side, very importantly, and a source of competitiveness is our aftermarket practice. So we tend to, here in the two divisions, especially on the heavy machine side, we sell larger machines where volume is coming from, but ultimately margins are to a great extent made with the less cyclical aftermarket business. A couple of words on how have we come to this. I wanted to show you this 110-year 10-year long history of ourselves. So I think the key point here is that we need to understand that if we look at the 18 companies, majority of them have a really long-standing history. Machinery, which is the largest of our businesses, roughly 40 million euro in revenue, established in 1911. The Boreo, however, is new as a brand. The Boreo as a brand has existed for roughly 1.5 years. However, as a listed company on the Helsinki Stock Exchange, we have been already under the name Yleiselektroniikka, or abbreviated YE, from 88. So YE, or the former Boreo, was a pure play electronics distribution business listed on the Helsinki Stock Exchange since 88 until 21. And as a result of our current majority owner, Reato Capital, acquiring the majority shareholding in YE in 2019, that is basically the point where the journey towards what you see Boreo being today has started, and leading into, first of all, establishment of new strategy, rebranding the company, introducing a new way of operating in March 21. So a lot has happened in the last 2.5 to 3 years. This is just on this slide, just a kind of simple illustration that we've done 12 acquisitions in the course of 2020, 2021, and 2022. We've deployed roughly 55 million euro in terms of enterprise value into acquisitions. The average multiple on those paid for acquisitions around about 5 times EBITDA. The machinery deal, which was done slightly before my personal joining of the firm, was roughly a 25 million enterprise value transaction that created the basis of diversified the former electronics distribution business to technical trade. I joined the firm in Q2 22, and thereafter we have continued to execute small, much more smaller acquisition, which will also be the core of our strategy going forward. We've done and successfully executed. These companies are operating and performing well in our ownership. However, it's good to note that 9 months of the time, 9 months of the last 2 years, we also spent in contemplating a sizable merger with another Finnish listed company called Sievi Capital, which is ultimately a private equity firm. The objective of that transaction was to bring the Sievi Capital portfolio companies, 4 of them under the Boreo umbrella. However, that deal ended up being voted down against from the side of the Sievi Capital shareholders. But it took a lot of resources from our side, and also contributed to our ability to do deals. In addition to that, I mean, if you look at Russia exit, and you look at our track record both in terms of strategy execution, but also financial performance, we are extremely pleased on the way that we have been managing the company and growing the firm profitably and sustainably the last 2.5 years. I don't have a lot of numbers here in the presentation, but these are these are the highlights. Happy to give more flavor on those if you're interested, and you see all the reports, of course, throughout audited reports. These are for continued operations only. As I mentioned in the beginning, you see on a quarterly basis, you see a steady growth of net sales in the last 2 years. The same applies to our operational EBIT. Earnings has grown significantly from 2020, while we have at the same time maintained a steady leverage measured by net debt to EBITDA. The current financial targets that we have are comprised. We have 3 of those. So growth of net sales, a minimum of 20% per annum. Growth of operational EBIT to a minimum of 8% by the end of 2023, and then a leverage ratio target so that we operate the company with a rather conservative leverage between 2 to 3x. Here I would just note on the leverage side of things that we raised a hybrid bond in early 22, which is classified as equity in our books and according to Finnish laws. So that ultimately drove down the leverage in Q1 this year. And however, now this is basically the increase in leverage here is ultimately a result of the exit of Russia. So basically meaning that the result that came out of Russia, because of that, we took a hit on our leverage. But that is now in the past, and we continue to drive the company forward with a good balance sheet also as of today. On the people side, I would like to note this is our, here you see from our board of directors, so the members in our board as well as the management team. Simon Hallqvist here on the left upper corner is our majority shareholder through Boreo Capital, so he owns roughly 70% of the shares. The rest of the team, the management team, and our broader group of key individuals, so roughly 30 individuals, our company CEOs, so portfolio company CEOs, as well as the management team and core Boreo people, we are altogether roughly 8% of the shares, so roughly closer to 80% of the shareholding is in the hands of that group. This is something where I joined the firm in May 2020. Thereafter, this is what we have built. So we have roughly added in the course of the last 2 years, 1.5 million euro more of headquarter cost, which has been an investment we have taken in order to provide us an avenue to grow sustainably going forward. That investment is now pretty much taken, and we are ready to execute with that team, supported with the business area team, so business controllers we have in place who drive M&A and who drive the development of the company. So majority investment taken to continue on the growth path where we have been the last 2 years. Then diving into a bit of further detail into our business model. I mean, this is the simplification on the way we explain what we do. So starting from the top, I mean, we own and we acquire great entrepreneurial companies, companies with strong profits and cash flow. Importantly, the development side of things, so what is that we actually provide and what is our value proposition for our companies. It all starts from the perspective of supporting and coaching the key individuals and the leaders, which ultimately will lead into earnings growth in a longer trajectory. So we're not managing. We are true believers of the decentralized operating structure. We believe in a culture where accountability and managerial responsibility is of utmost key. So we want to keep the companies. We buy new businesses. We keep it intact. The brands are there. We want the entrepreneurs to continue operating with us. We provide them and the employees in those firms an opportunity to grow, to develop, and take new roles as part of the group, rather than managing the company up from the top in a very centralized manner. And in simple terms, as you might have seen from many of our companies of our type, ultimately we believe in our ability, and we have already a very good track record of showing that we can reinvest that capital that those companies, autonomous companies, generate with high and attractive returns, whether those investments being organic in nature or whether the capital goes into and is deployed into acquiring new companies. So we're heavily focused on long-term value creation. We're not building the company to optimize it for the next 3 to 5 years. We are here to build a long-term sustainable company with the heavy focus on shareholder value creation. So on a per share basis, rather than just building an empire and a large company for false premises or reasons. Then lastly, I will talk shortly about our strategy. So we have laid our strategy 1.5 years ago as follows. So we have basically 3 pillars: acquisitions, development, and people and culture. So I'll end the presentation by recapping shortly on how we have executed our strategy, what it is, and how we expect to go forward as well. So first of all, we look at 3 types of acquisitions. We look at two, but subclassified into 3. So first of all, add-ons. This is the bread and butter of what we do. So we like to buy small entrepreneurial companies, which we add to the existing 3 business areas that we have. And these have been the bulk of what we have done. Here we don't look for synergies or potential to consolidate businesses. The key focus is on the entrepreneur, the continuity of the business, and within those 3 business areas, the objective to create on a longer term basis through sharing of best practices, through collaboration between the MDs and the organizations, create cross-selling synergies and so forth. But this is far away. This is not what we account for in doing transactions. We also have already done and we continue to do transaction and acquisitions which we integrate directly into our businesses. A couple of them. So, but these are typically much more smaller transactions. For example, these 2 deals are on a revenue basis less than €500,000 per annum. Then we also opportunistically and continuously look for new openings, so possibilities to expand the company into new industrial areas. That is mainly, there we don't see the necessity, or nor do we believe in that we need to go and buy and do larger acquisitions. We look, for example, as of today, we are evaluating the attractiveness of the forest industry space or the larger forestry sector as a potential area where we target. We see a long-term trend in the Nordic countries, which has a trajectory and overall an industry structure which enables to pursue this type of a strategy. But we like to build those also through smaller acquisition, not necessarily bigger single deals. What we look for from acquisitions or key acquisition criteria, decent valuation. We look at attractive cash-based returns. So this is what we look at, and when we've set recently our hurdle rates going forward as well. So heavily focused on cash generation. Generally asset-light business models, healthy operating margins, and predictability of revenues. And at least as importantly, what we look at in transactions is the fit to Boreo way of operating and guiding principles. So basically meaning that people are really in the core on the way we operate and when we look at new deals as well. Then going into the development side of things, I think this graph tries to illustrate to you how we think about our businesses. So you have heard me talking about autonomous companies. This is the way truly it is with our case. So an MD at our company is fully responsible for the business's profit and loss statement, operations, and balance sheet. Balance sheet, with the exception that financing is centralized in the group level. So meaning that we take and we of course see synergies and opportunities for liquidity, for financing purposes, but also importantly for the sake of maintaining liquidity overall. Our role is as Boreo is to support the companies mostly in terms of strategic planning, investments, and business people development. What we provide for the business is a very simple, non-bureaucratic way of operating, and require also reporting, a basic set of reporting and target setting. But most importantly, I would say what we look from businesses and operators is the accountability and integrity. That is the core of the way we operate. Last, I then finalizing the presentation with 2 slides on the way we think about people development. Only 2 years ago, we clearly laid out that in order for this business to work on the long-term basis, we want to first of all be an attractive place for both to entrepreneurs but also young talent. We successfully done that in the last 2 years. We have kicked off early this year Boreo Academy, so leadership program for our MDs, roughly 30 individuals, organized through a couple of offsites a year and training courses and so forth. Also started off with the firm's first talent program, where we provide opportunities for our future leaders to take up new roles and get to know the possibilities within the firm much more stronger. The first steps that we have also very important taken is to develop the incentive structures within the firm much more to align the interests of our shareholders and personnel. And as a showcase, I would like to, as an important step in let's say in that objective or achieving that objective of aligning the interest of shareholders, we completed in the summer now 2 months ago a personnel share issue where our people, key individuals, invested roughly €1.5 million of money in the company, which ultimately led to a situation with what you see here from an ownership point of view. So Preato Capital being the majority owner, 71%, and the broader group of individuals in the management over 8%. So this is, I believe, a strong of a showcase of that the key individuals believe in the story. We're not only we're not only employed here. We are here to think about long-term value creation from a shareholder point of view. And this is an important step in overall developing the decentralized organization and way of operating going forward as well. Although I think with that said, I would like to end my presentation and say many thanks for listening in.